This only cost me $500 to do a few hours of work across a few days. I'm Justin Does What, and recently my wife and I bought this boat and the decking was really slick. I wanted to install some EVA boat foam flooring to prevent anybody from getting hurt. This is my experience in doing it myself. I just want to be honest and start out by saying I've never done this before. This is my first time. If you guys aren't a patient person, or if you guys just have the money to do this professionally, I highly recommend it. I saw a bunch of other videos of people doing it and they made it seem pretty simple, but I don't think that it was that easy, mainly because of the templating, but you'll see later on in the video. So let's get into it. The first thing I needed to do was template out the boat's walking sections. That way I know how to cut the foam before I lay it out and roll it. I read about a few different techniques and tools other people have used to template out the parts of the boat in order to cut the foam to the proper size. I decided to test out some to see how well they would work for me. I figured I would start at the front of the boat and just test a small area to figure out which method would work the best. The first method I tried, I ordered some tracing paper off Amazon and rolled it out to size. After taping it down, I found out that it was too hard to see through and was easily ripping. I definitely don't recommend this method. The next method I tried was using a painter's tape outline. Thinking about this though, it wasn't going to be super accurate for my case as soon as I lift it off the boat deck. This may work for you though if you have a very square boat, but my boat has too many curves. For the third and final method, I read somebody had gotten clear, thick plastic from the hardware store and cut it to size. Ultimately, I found this to be the easiest method. I went to Harbor Freight and got a few rolls of 10-foot by 25-foot plastic for around $11 a roll. This is generally found on the painting accessories aisle. Next, I tested some tools and found that a mix of tools would be needed to make the cuts as clean as possible since I was doing it by hand. Mainly, I used a rotary cutting blade, or what I like to call a pizza cutter tool. And also, I used a regular box cutter style razor blade. I also tried scissors, but sometimes I found the edges fraying. This may have also been because of the texture on the flooring though. I also used a safety cutting tool, which was great for cutting the adhesive backing off of the foam without cutting all the way through the foam. One other tool I found to be an absolute necessity was a vinyl floor roller. I got one at Home Depot for around $50. First, I took some measurements of the area I was templating. Then I cut it to size before taking it up on the boat and taping it down. A trick I came up with that helped hold the plastic in place was to put little rolls of painter's tape on the deck and under the plastic to ensure that after I cut the plastic, it wouldn't shift on me. I was gently pulling on the plastic as I put it down to try and remove as many creases and ripples as possible. I didn't pull it too tight though because I knew it would make the plastic pull in different directions as I cut it. As I cut the plastic with the rotary tool, I really took my time, especially anywhere where I was cutting out a shape. I also wasn't pressing too hard to ensure that I wasn't cutting into the deck of my boat. I was aware that if I took my time and was very methodical about the templating, the flooring would likely look much better. I also labeled each template piece I was cutting with a permanent marker, using T for the top of the piece and B for the bottom. Then I would mark whether it was a right side piece or a left side piece. You could also label the template pieces for the part of the boat that they go into. The next step was to lay the template plastic onto the foam and cut it. When taping the plastic to the back of the foam, I also realized that only clear packaging tape would kind of stick to the anti-adhesive backing on the foam. I couldn't get painter's tape to stick at all. When laying the template plastic on the back of the foam for cutting, I quickly realized that I had to flip it upside down to make it accurate. If you're attempting to do this installation, make a mark so that you can tell if it is upside down or not. Thankfully, I only lost one piece before I realized the template needed to be flipped to match the right direction on the foam. Now I needed to get the boat clean. I started by throwing some dish soap and water into a 5-gallon bucket. I read that we don't really need any harsh chemicals as Dawn dish soap should do the trick. After the bucket was filled, I got up on the boat and started scrubbing it down with a soft brush. I was really focusing on all the areas I would be placing the flooring. It's important that we get all of the sand, debris, and any fish guts and oils off the deck. After scrubbing the whole boat down, I took a hose and sprayed all the water to the back of the boat to let it drain out. To speed up the process of drying, I grabbed an old beach towel and wiped everything down and let the sun do the rest. I also put down my bimini top to help with the drying process. Obviously, if I had a T-top tower, I wouldn't be able to do this. With it being so hot in the middle of a Florida summer, this definitely helped out a lot. After everything was dry, I just wanted to double check and make sure I got all of the sand off the deck. So I grabbed my shop vac and I thoroughly vacuumed the whole entire deck. The last step before installing the flooring was to wipe down the deck with rubbing alcohol and then also with acetone, followed by another round of rubbing alcohol. After completing all of the prep work, it was finally time for me to start laying and rolling out the flooring, starting with the bow area first. Before cutting anything though, I laid the first few pieces out to double check that they were properly cut. Next, I grabbed the safety cutter tool and began cutting a small strip out of the adhesive backing paper. I was only gently pressing while cutting to ensure I don't cut the actual flooring. This allowed me to set the piece and make sure it is properly aligned before fully pressing it down with the pressure needed to set the adhesive. After I was sure the piece was aligned, I pulled the other pieces of backing paper off of the foam. I then grabbed the roller tool and began pressing down with all of my weight to get the adhesive to fully stick. The instructions mention that at least 15 pounds of pressure need to be applied in order for the adhesive to work. I made sure to roll over the entire piece. As you may have noticed, I did have to cut the front piece into 3 different sections. This is because the piece that I had ordered was not wide enough to actually go across the whole front of the bow. Now I could test how it was going to feel on my feet, so I hopped up there and gave it the old walk around. It felt awesome and I was really happy with how it was coming out. But none of that matters unless the wife is happy, so she hopped up on the stairs and gave it a shot. She was also stoked with how it was feeling and looking. Everything seemed good, so I began templating the rest of the boat. My wife is rad and she decided to hop in and help. While I was getting the templates ready, she was helping me cut the flooring to help speed up the process. She is super crafty and definitely better with the cutting tools than I am. For the walking area around the center console, I cut down the plastic to near the width to make it easier to template out without having to fight too much plastic being in the way. For the back of the boat, I covered around the leaning post but not under it. This is where our cooler goes, and I figured it would make it harder to slide in and out if I put flooring there. For only costing us around $500, we are stoked with how the boat flooring turned out. It's not perfect, but it will definitely do the job, and if it gets messed up at all, it would be cheap to replace it. The boat flooring has been great for improving the traction and comfort of the boat deck, and well worth the investment in my opinion. In the future, I will give an update either in a video or the comments, so check back. If you have any questions or comments, I try to respond to as much as I can. If you guys made it to the end of this video, thank you for watching. I hope this helped you make a decision on whether you should do this yourself or get it professionally done. If you guys enjoyed this, make sure you go check out some of my other videos. We'll see you next time.